Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to At the Inn of the Failed Return. I'm Matt. Here with me, as always, are Sebastian and Mike. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. So a couple weeks ago, I just want to kick this off real quick. I don't want to take a lot of time with this. I mentioned that we had somebody banging on our cabin door at 3:00 in the morning on the last night of the cruise, and we ended up in a discussion with a couple pieces of talent, Daniel Garcia and Isaiah Cassie, on who did it, and I found out.
And who was it?
The culprits posted the prank on YouTube on their blog.
Oh,
the culprits were Daniel Garcia and Isaiah Cassidy. So you boys can go fuck yourselves. I have filed a complaint with 6Man against them twice through 2 different channels. So fuck you. And I hope you're never back on a cruise, you drunken assholes.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel.
I don't.
And Matt's being polite right now.
Yeah. I did not appreciate being disturbed at 3:00 in the morning in the cabin with my wife, and I did not appreciate being put on YouTube for it. So fuck you, boys. Anyways,
that's not
we have
cool.
limited. Yeah, it's not. It's really not. Like it's.
No.
We try to be cool to talent, period, as a group. And granted, there are some that are just overwhelmed or have no social cues. But for the talent to mess with us paying customers, us peons at 3:00 in the morning because they're drunk and idiots. Because I mean, we were stupid in our early 20s too. That's not cool. Let alone to put it out on their YouTube channel. So
no, I think that's the worst part is they actually put it out. It's just like really like.
And you don't actually see our faces, but you do hear a good chunk of the conversation we had with them.
Wow.
So Pound Sand boys, you've lost some fans, and I hope you never make it back on a Jericho cruise.
I have no
Anyways,
idea
now
who they
that
are.
that's out
So
there.
there you go. It's so they're fucking assholes. So
Yeah. Now that that's out of the way, gentlemen, failed sequels.
failed sequels.
Yes.
It's tragic. We've all seen them. I mean, we've been excited for stuff, and sometimes it's a matter of we've consumed, especially in these days, we've consumed too much of the behind the scenes. We've read too many articles, we've watched too many trailers, and it doesn't live up to hype. Other times, it is just such a big swing and a mess. It's terrible. There's just no redemption for it.
No.
Yeah, it's funny when I was doing the research for this and like looking through, there's so many sequels I remember watching, but I have no clue what the hell actually happened in the second movie. Like I'm like, I know I've seen this, but I cannot remember this movie at all.
Right.
So I guess it's just my brain just decided to just erase that sequel, that moment of time out of my
never
mind because it was so bad.
Yep. And we don't go back and watch these things either, right? Like even there's those movies that we'll see on TV and we have to stop. Yeah, and then there's the movies like those we see on TV and it's like, oh no, I will watch the TV guide channel over this. I'm gonna go read a book or mow the lawn or get a tooth drilled. Anything with this.
Anything, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's some bad ones out there. Yes, sir.
You want to start us off with one?
Do it.
Okay. So you were saying about swinging and missing, right? And sometimes people do a sequel to bring back the nostalgia of the first one, but it's just the wrong time and place, and it just doesn't work. And I'm talking about Escape from LA.
Ooh, that one didn't even cross my radar.
Yeah,
but
that was bad.
Yeah.
It has none of the character, like the dystopian prison thing that the first one has. And I mean, Snake Plissken is a great character, but it just, I don't know.
It missed. It
just completely missed. And I think part of it has to do with the atrocious CGI. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, the surfing scene in Escape from LA.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, that was right up there with some of those stunts that, James Bond will pull, and you're like, you know what? I'll give you a lot, buddy, but this one is just way,
Yeah.
way too out there.
I guess kind of the way to describe Escape from New York specifically is like it's almost like Mad Max in a prison.
Yes.
In like a
Absolutely.
prison landscape, right? And so LA is like the next prison area that he has to go to save the world. But and they try to like recreate the cult following nuance scenes of Escape from New York, but it's just none of it works. Like
And then
it
they
just
tried to add shine and polish to it, and it's like, no.
yeah.
Please
So
don't.
yeah, so and everybody wanted it to be so good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because of the time spent between the two movies was too long. I know we talked about like Maverick, for example, because it was like
Mhm.
20 years or more than that before making, so it was enough time. But sometimes you shouldn't do a sequel if enough time has already passed, because
Mhm.
it's a completely different generation of people, and watching it, like the new generation watching it will be like, what? Like, I don't get it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I
So
think that's why Maverick worked, because it was so much time. Like, I took my son to go
yeah.
see it. He's like, "Holy crap, this is
How
the
much
coolest
did
thing."
you like it?
Oh, they said it's the greatest thing he's ever seen. Like it was
Yeah.
like Tom Cruise is the man. I'm like, well, yeah, that's he's awesome. His movies are awesome. Then we went and saw Dead Reckoning, like, I don't know, 3 months later or whatever it was, and
That was a good one too.
it was a good one.
And you know what? They took a lot of time with Maverick and crafted it. Sometimes they just rush these things too. Like I mean, Escape from LA came out in 96. Do you happen to know off the top of your head when Escape New York came out?
I
think it was
just
like
looked up as 81.
84. Oh, 81.
81. So we're dealing with
15
years,
Yeah.
right? Maverick was going on almost 30, over 30, something like that.
It's like 84 or something was Top Gun, 85, something like
Yeah,
that. I'm
so
sure
we're talking.
Seb's got the Google machine going.
Yeah, but so the reason that like movies like Top Gun work is because failed sequels are my love hate of films.
Yeah,
Right.
love hate. Yes. Thank you, Cruising with Kayfabe. It's my buddy Josh and his wife Emily. A wonderful podcast. Check those out if you're into wrestling. But it's
Yeah, so just to finish my point there, it's like
Yeah.
because Top Gun was such a beloved movie, every human being has seen it, right? So I mean, everybody wants that sequel to work. But Escape from New York made, as I'm looking up here, $25 million in the box office. It's a cult
in
classic movie.
81
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah, so
So
that's
I mean,
substantially more, yeah. But it wasn't like the average person in 81 has no idea what this movie is. It's not like a major blockbuster movie to come out. It's kind of I'm not saying indie movie, but I don't think, from what I remember, I was too young though at the time, but I don't think it was like a popular movie that came out.
No,
I
it's
No,
not like
I
you're
think
going
it's
to
more
see E.T. or something. It's just
Yeah.
small budget, low budget, sort of like you say, cult following film that probably didn't get a huge wide release. I bet it didn't.
I
don't think it did. And John Carpenter is known for crafting some good stuff that ends up, not in the top 10 box office, but gets a cult following. I mean, it's not unheard of, and it came out really at the dawn of home video as
Yeah.
well. So it
Mhm.
was kind of new-ish as, video stores and everybody having a VCR in their home was really beginning. And that small release and everything, but with 15 years to craft the sequel,
Yeah.
Top Gun did a great job. They took their time. They used the pandemic delay, that whole deal. They had a good cast, a good story. But other films, even though it's a 15-year break between these two, I feel like they went, okay, we're going to shoot this in 4 weeks and get it out there, and we're going to hammer through the effects budget, which is why we get that garbage surfing scene. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily the time between the two films, but the time they take to craft the next one.
Yeah.
It seems to work with the relatively recent trend of the last few decades, where it's like, we know we're doing 2 or 3 of these things. We're going to film them all at once and take our time.
Or they write a lot of movies are written with a potential of a sequel. Like there's already an idea in place about sequels. I can't imagine that he had Escape from LA in mind when he wrote Escape from New York. I feel like he was
Probably
just
not.
doing like a one-off movie, and then he's like, "Well, let's think about another area, right?" And like everything about Escape from LA kind of makes sense. Like there's a massive earthquake,
Mhm.
cuts off LA from the rest of the United States. It becomes like a gang-ridden area that Snake has to go in. Like I like the formula of the setup for it.
And
It just doesn't work because for whatever reason they tried to recreate
Mhm.
Escape from New York 15 years later to an audience that has no idea what Escape from New York was.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and you got LA and New York had the same reputation in different areas of, being crime ridden and gang heavy in real life. Like you look at that mid 90s LA reputation. It
Mhm.
it was different. You were talking Crips and Bloods and, all sorts of extra gangs running around there and, high crime. You see the movies like Boys in the Hood and stuff like that. And it was the same sort of reputation New York had in the early 80s of being crime ribbon and
Oh,
you
yeah.
you don't want to walk down the streets. And so it's just shifted a bit,
Mhm.
right?
It did definitely give the same flavors of like the gang warfare in the Escape from LA too.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean
Yeah.
the outlandish scenes are just so over the top and badly CGI that it just takes you right out of the movie. Again, the surfing scene is
And
just oh my
CGI
god.
was new, so it was a new toy for John Carpenter to play
Mhm.
with, and the
Yeah.
technology just wasn't there. I think maybe if he would have waited more time, maybe that
Mhm.
surfing scene could have
Maybe.
actually looked not, what it did.
Garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
could
mean,
have
it
not
it
looked
it
garbage.
really
That's okay.
was. I mean, we were looking at films like Terminator 2 and The Abyss
Mhm.
that had really done well with it, and he probably didn't have the budget for it either, right?
No,
But that
oh, God,
happens. I mean, that happens today,
Mhm.
where it's like, we kind of
Look
ran
at
out of
Moonfall.
budget
I'm
for
sure
special
Moonfall had a
effects.
huge budget, and it looked like garbage,
Oh my yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Lovely.
so Mike,
There you
you're
go.
right inside Sarah's head, so I mean,
Yeah,
it's
there you go.
dark and filthy in there, buddy. Be careful. Um,
Good place to be.
And yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I think the best sequels to Escape from New York are the Metal Gear Solid games because
Yeah.
as they sort of drop hints that Snake Plissken was the basis for Solid Snake in Metal Gear, and to a point where even in a couple of the games when he's hiding his identity, Snake calls himself lieutenant or captain or some rank Plissken.
Mm. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I would say that that's probably a better sequel than Escape from LA. Period. All right,
Yeah.
Mike, you got one for us?
I do. So Seb went with the one that took a long time. I'm going to go with the one that didn't.
Yeah.
It was in '99. The Matrix came out, and
Cool.
like the
Hey.
Matrix is on for me anyway. It blew my mind. It was sort of it was one of those movies where you're just like, it was probably like when people saw Star Wars in '77, just like,
Mhm.
holy crap. And the Matrix did that to me. And it wasn't Reloaded so much that I didn't like. It was Revolutions that like Reloaded. Sure, it was wordy. It was kind of boring in a lot of ways, but
Well, there's
Revolutions
no
was awful. Like just
Yeah.
it was a joke. Like I remember going to see it in the theater and it's like walking out laughing, going, I just spent like $20 on this. Like, come on.
Mhm.
And I know we're focusing on like maybe direct sequels, but I don't know. I don't think
you can
you
always
think
pair the two of them together too, like 2 and 3.
okay.
Or
Well, I mean,
Well,
let's
kind of
be
like
honest here. Like 4
yeah.
wasn't very good either.
I never
That
even
one that
saw
came
it.
out a couple
Four
years ago was not
okay.
that good.
It was okay. It was
I mean, it was better
than
than
Revolutions.
So
absolutely.
okay, so my major problem with the second Matrix is the
Uh-huh.
entire the climax of the scene is literally an exposition dump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like he just stands there and something's explained to him, and you're just like, okay.
like,
and
what?
part of the allure of the first one is the battle between him and Agent Smith, the inevitable
Yes.
battle, right?
Yes.
And like being, well, I'm not going to spoil the end, but if you haven't seen the
Oh,
Matrix,
it's
go screw
okay.
yourself.
It's
Yeah.
the statute of
Yeah.
limitations is up.
But it
Yeah,
it
I
became
believe so.
it went from being like a cool sci-fi movie to like
Mhm.
the second coming of Jesus Christ. And
Right.
like
Mhm.
I'm not harping on religion here, but it was so preachy in the second and the third one that it turned a lot of people off, right?
Yes,
It just
absolutely.
lost the magic of the first
Yeah.
movie for me.
Do you
So,
think the Wachowskis had a plan for sequels, or do you think the Matrix originally was just okay? This is our movie. This is it.
no,
And
I
take
think
your-
they wrote the 3 parts in mind, actually.
Really?
I think
really
they
do.
did. I think because I mean they did that thing. I think they filmed the second, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't like them enough to really pay attention to which one is which, so I always get confused if I'm looking at them. Is this the second or the third? I think they filmed those two simultaneously.
Two and
they
three,
did.
yeah,
2 and
they
3
did.
they
Yeah,
did.
2 and
Yeah.
3. I mean they built a huge set piece for that freeway chase scene, which is about the only good thing of the second movie.
I really do
Um,
like the twins though in the second movie. Like they
Yeah.
were badass, man. The ghost twins.
Yeah,
Oh, they were so cool. Like the
they
apparitions.
were like the prototype for those the Sentinels, right? Because they had the same idea. They were like in
I
my
think
mind, they were like
so. Yeah.
right.
The fact that they could like phase in and out of.
Yeah, that was
you
cool.
know, they were like apparition specters, like super speed ones.
Yeah.
So, but the
Which-
problem with the second one, to further your point, Mike, is just like when they get into the exposition dumps, it's just like confusing, and you have to pay attention, and then you still don't really know what they're talking about.
Yes.
You know, they try to like blend this exposition dump with like creative speak. You know, and it's just you have to focus so much. You can't just watch the movie and enjoy it.
No, and that was the thing with the original is you could just sit back, watch, have your head explode, and then you're good. And this one, you're like, oh, what am I paying attention to? I'm
But
like,
it was
why?
easy to understand. Like,
Yeah, they were
Exactly.
very
you're a
they were
battery.
much more careful with the
Yeah.
exposition dumps in the first one, right?
It
Yeah.
wasn't complicated,
it's-
right?
you- You get spoon-fed little chunks of
Yeah.
the exposition. And then in the
Not
other
an
ones, it's
entire
just like,
15-minute climactic
yeah,
sequence.
it's projectile vomited in your face.
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've all dealt with sick small children, and that's exactly what some of those things
Mhm.
were. It's like, cool, the back seat of my car is flooded.
Yeah, great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah. I
Do you
mean, I
guys
they
think
did
that there was a
job with
better way
the-
of doing it, though?
Hmm?
Or does the story inevitably lead to where the story has to lead to? Like, I can't really see what else they could have done to further that story properly. I just don't think it worked.
I think they would have had to be a little more careful with their exposition dumps, because I mean, space it out a little bit.
yeah.
A little like they decided to do such a complex series
yeah.
of interlocking theories, and this character's this and this is the personification of that, and they probably could have dumbed that down a little bit. I'm not saying treat us like a Michael Bay film that is shut your mind off, but they went too far the other
He's a
direction.
great director.
It was very much like Tenet or
Oh my
Inception,
god! Don't even get me started on Tenet.
which is so complex. I mean,
Oh my
much
God.
better done than these two, but it's so
Yeah.
complex. You need to sit down, watch it repeatedly, and even get out a notepad in some.
This
in
was
some
my
cases.
face watching Tenet for 2.5 hours.
I mean, to be fair,
Trying
I've
to
seen
get
you watch
everything in,
Sesame
I'm like,
Street like
what?
that too.
That's true. So when I started writing stories, you know, and doing research for stories, and I'm not a prolific story writer at all. It's something I want to become in my life at some point. But I've always been taught to reference Lord of the Rings as
Mhm.
being very well written, because the core of your story has to be a simple thread to follow. And Lord of the Rings is probably one of the most simple threads to follow. There's a ring that's bad. You got to move it from here to here.
Yes.
That's the story.
Now let's go
It's
for a
about,
walk.
it's about moving the ring from here to here.
Yeah.
Where the complexity comes in, where you add the layers of the characters and their personal stories. And all revolves around the main story of the ring moving from here to here. But now somebody wants the ring, somebody doesn't want it to go there. You know, there's like a lost king that wants to, you know, that's a ranger now. Like, that's where the complexities of the story grow, is within the own personal character stories. But at the core, the story is very simple to follow.
Yeah,
You know,
there's
boom, boom.
branches, right? There's
Yeah,
branches.
it branches out of that one thread, right? So
Yeah, and there's B and C plots involved,
Sure, yeah.
especially as you get into the other two movies, because you have now 2 or 3 different groups working on 2 or 3 different things
Mhm.
that are supposed to arc
Yeah.
back the other direction. And I know I bust balls on this movie a lot, or that series a lot, but it is well crafted, and
it's the greatest
part of it is because the books were well crafted and took forever to write. Like,
Yeah.
I wish you luck with your storytelling thing, Seb. And if it takes you 30 years to craft a book that good, then great for your grandchildren, because they're gonna make some bank off what you did. But Tolkien took a lot of time. He invented languages and script, and
Well,
it
he
wasn't an
invented the
easy
language
task, and it
first.
worked.
He invented the language first, then goes, I
Yeah.
should write a book about this language, and then created one of the greatest stories of all time.
Which is
Like,
absolutely
what the
crazy
hell?
to think. Like seriously, who does that? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna invent some languages and then I'm gonna write a story around it.
Yeah, for those of you
Yeah.
that don't know, J.R.R. Tolkien was a linguistics major, and I don't know if it was the thesis
And professor.
but like his
Yeah.
claim to fame is like he invented a language, the
Yes.
Elven language, and then wrote the book after that.
Yeah, and he sat down and invented a whole language. Now, granted, it's not the only language that we've just sort of made up for a story. Like Klingon,
True.
you can get dictionaries of too, but that was kind of pieced together over 40 years. Whereas Tolkien sat down and took a long time to do it, don't get me wrong, but also invented the writing style and everything. And then he went, well, what do I do with this shit? Okay, I'm going to write a book. We're going to talk about these guys. And that's fantastic. But there's a reason I think he has relatively few for his fame books to his name. It's because he did take all the time to do the hard work on the front end. And just it's a human lifespan, so he didn't have a whole lot of time on the back end to really write another 15 books,
right?
So all right, so mine,
yours.
Yeah. One of the most beloved films of all time. It was a Best Picture. It is referenced and seen today. It is one of the great family picks. It is one of the great legends in Hollywood for all the stuff that happened behind the scenes and the fact that they used asbestos for snow. Released a sequel in 1985. Return to Oz. Holy crap. What was this nonsense?
Can't tell you what it's about.
I
know I've seen it. No, I cannot remember the movie.
I watched it once and it stuck with me as just one of the god awful. Like the second this topic came up, I knew exactly the first one on the top of my list. This was a very young Fairuza Balk, who would go on to fame as the Craft.
Was she the main girl in it?
Yes, she was. She was Dorothy in this. Dorothy is saved from a psychiatric experiment in a hospital and called back to Oz. There's a wizard, or the Gnome King, and a witch that have just trashed the place. They're trying to take over. And I think Cruising Kayfabe here is referencing Return to Oz. But yeah, it is. It was a mess. It was an absolute nightmare. I was so excited. We had watched Return to The Wizard of Oz a few times on like the Disney Sunday night movie. They used to play it like Easter-ish, if I recall correctly. And it's like, cool, there's a sequel. And again, we didn't go see it in the theater, but it hit those video store shelves, and we were an early adopter of the technology. So we rented it, and I was so excited. And it's 1985, so I'm probably 7 by the time this came out. And it was probably the first film I saw that I went, why is this hurt so much?
I don't think I've ever seen it, to be honest.
I know I've seen it. I literally cannot remember a single scene from that movie.
Unless I blocked it out completely. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Well, you know what? Let's I don't want to get I don't want to get too deep into it, but I'll real quick, just so you guys get a taste of it.
Oh boy.
We'll all take a look and suffer together, because that's what it's about. Spreading the misery. So I believe I want that one there. Yep.
Yeah, Disney was weird in the 80s.
They
had some weird
right
stuff.
now.
Well, yes.
True story. And I love how old this trailer is too.
Whoa. Oh, I'm in.
This summer, Walt Disney Pictures presents a motion picture fantasy adventure beyond your fondest imagination. You'll be transported miraculously back to the enchanted land of Oz, that magical kingdom beloved by young and old for generations.
It's just a yellow brick.
No, Belina, you don't understand.
What kind of drugs were they doing when they made this?
This was the Yellow Brick Road.
You'll share with Dorothy Gale the shock of finding everything mysteriously changed.
What's happened to everybody?
And you'll delight with her discovery of 4 wonderful new friends who band together against a wicked queen and the dreaded Gnome King.
Good Lord, I forgot how bad that
This
was.
is the Oz
That's
you
special
haven't
effects
seen
is
before.
amazing.
Awesome. I don't know
And
what
this
you're
is the
talking about.
Oz you'll want to visit again and again. From Walt Disney Pictures comes a whole new world of entertainment.
Why don't we just fly back to Kansas?
Return to Oz.
This is like the Never-Ending Story meets the Labyrinth. This is awesome. I'm in.
Well, I wish you luck in finding it. I don't think it might be on Disney Plus or it might be buried next to the Star Wars Christmas special. I don't know. Sarah is making a good point. Wizard of Oz may have had religious undertones, so they assume that's why they play around Easter. If only we had a pastor to ask. I think I know a guy. I think I got somebody I can ask on that one. But yeah, I mean, like it was the weird dark era of Disney. Like they were trying some stuff, and it is on Disney Plus. Thank you, Cruising with Kayfabe.
Okay, so Mike and I are going to watch that tonight. No,
hell yeah, that's the evening's festivities.
No chance.
And you know, and again, we go back to that thing of it's the dawn of computer effects, and you saw that some of that was claymation in there.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. The Gnome King looked awesome.
Very early green screen. Yeah, it was. It was honestly, it was the first time in my life, like I said. And so if it came out and that I said, this movie hurts. This one has hurt me emotionally and physically. This has done some damage. And I guess they said it was coming out in summer, so I probably saw it around 8 years old.
Wow.
We all have late birthdays in the year. So I'm guessing with the video delay, I was probably 8 when I saw it, and it's just
yeah, that'll scar a kid, man. That's some scary imagery. Like Pumpkinhead guy and just the whole, which he looked a lot like Jack Skellington to me. It was interesting.
Yes, like a very early Jack Skellington, right?
Interesting. Yeah, the imagery is interesting for what happened in the future, right?
I mean, if you told me Tim Burton saw that movie and it stuck in his head, I'd believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Seb, you got another one for us, my friend.
I do. So sometimes I know we're going to do like books that were turned into movies at some point, but I have to talk about the sequel and specifically. Sometimes you have a great hit with turning a book into a movie, and then there's obviously other books in the series. So when you try to do a sequel of that book series and it just completely falls flat and stupid. And I'm talking about Queen of the Damned from the Interview with the Vampire series.
Oh.
And the first problem with Queen of the Damned is that they tried to cram 2 books worth of material into what is the runtime? 101 minutes.
That never works.
Yeah, so I mean, it's barely considered feature film.
It's just over. It's like an hour and 41 minutes into 2 books worth of material, and you're just kind of like everything. So there's a. I don't know if you know what the story is of Queen of the Damned, or if you guys have seen it, but
it's been so long since I've even thought of it. So if you could refresh me,
the book is freaking amazing. It's the best book that I read by Anne Rice.
Really?
It's better than Interview with the Vampire. It's better than the Vampire Lestat. And Queen of the Damned is so good because it talks about the origin of the vampires and how they became vampires in that world specifically.
Cool.
There is the main vampire's name is Akasha. She's the queen vampire who's been laying in stone since the Egyptian times, and it's about her reawakening. And in the book, when she reawakens, she goes like, because she's hungry, so to speak. She goes.
I mean, everybody needs breakfast, right?
Yeah, and then she realizes how many vampires have been created, and she goes on this like terror spree. Which lasts probably like close to 100 pages in the book. So there's time to really absorb the destructive force. It's like, from what I remember, it's like 37 seconds of screen time in the book.
Wow.
And you're just kind of like, things just happen so fast because of plot that you don't have the ability to sit in the weight of the moment and really like embrace what's going on. And it just goes... it's a mess. It's such a mess. And obviously they wanted to do the sequel because of the success of Interview, but Tom Cruise turned down the role. So Stuart Townsend ends up playing Lestat, and it's not the same. It's really not the same. So
well, I mean, nothing against Stuart Townsend, but he's not Tom Cruise.
No.
You know, like when you start off, when you're on a certain level, and I know Tom gets shit for being an action guy, but I mean, he does have chops. You don't get to his level without having chops. It's a step down. Like there's very few actors, especially when you're aiming at a certain age and a certain look, that you can make a lateral move over to. I mean, Brad Pitt hated filming Interview with the Vampire to the point where he tried to get out of it, and his agent is like, it's going to cost you multiple millions of dollars to get out of this. So Brad's like, fine, I will deal with it. So I mean, Brad and Tom not coming back, that's a problem.
I have something to say about that. Actually, you know, it has been known that Brad Pitt absolutely despised the role that in that movie, but I think he channeled that into his character, because the entire concept of Louis was that he hated being a vampire. Like, he was disgusted with himself. He disgusted with this life. And, you know, that's why he first decided to do this interview in the story, is to like bring this out to the public, so to speak. Right. And you can really sense his despair and hatred of what he's become, honestly. And I think he channels that into the role. So, what are you laughing at, man?
Your cat's just going full ham.
Oh yeah, she's definitely full clean mode on her right now. So
absolutely, she knows what's going on.
Your cat's just giving her. He's calmed down a little bit there, but you were just in the middle of a serious point, and he's like, "I'm going to make sure these are clean." Continue.
No, and again, it goes to the adage of your story has to be about characters that are going through stuff, and Interview is a good example of a character of Lestat or Louise and Lestat. There's a good story there, whereas Queen of the Damned is 100% plot driven. You don't feel anything for these characters. To boot, you want to see Tom Cruise, and you get Stuart Townsend, so you get like you get like the Wish level of Lestat.
And poor Stuart Townsend, that dude, he got passed over. He did that, then he got passed over for Aragorn in Lord of the Rings.
Well, he actually started filming Aragorn, and
yes, that's
like,
right.
That's a nope. That's a nope for me. This is not working.
Oh yeah, he got full Eric Stoltz out of the role.
Did you know that Viggo Mortensen wasn't even going to take the role, but his kids are like, you have to do this. You can't not do this. This is going to be one of the greatest films of all time. So then he said yes. And he showed up on day 2 or 3 of filming, not even having read the script. And Peter Jackson was like, okay, well, you're in the next scene.
And that really says something about his level too.
Oh, he's such a good actor, man.
Yes.
I mean, I mean, he was relatively unknown, but maybe if you'd put him in the Stuart Townsend role in Queen of the Damned, it might have helped. But I think the big problem there is exactly what you said, is they took too much material and they condensed
it. That's 100% what it is.
I mean, Lord of the Rings as a franchise removed a pretty sizable plot point. We don't deal with Tom Bombadil at all in the films, but it didn't hurt the product. And when you look at the other end of this, from condensing, you look at the Hobbit trilogy, they took one book and they stretched it, and that doesn't work either.
Yeah, it doesn't work the other way too.
You have to do the source material justice. If you can remove something that is, superfluous, like Tom Bombadil, and you can get away with it and craft it right, like, it didn't hurt. I mean, you read the books and it's like, okay, well, this giant chunk's missing, but they did the rest of it justice. And they don't service the book properly, because Anne Rice is not known for writing short stuff. Right? No, she crafts her words, she crafts her stories, and that's why they're so good, and that's why Interview got on there. And Interview is now a TV series as well. And
I heard it's really good too, actually.
I watched a couple episodes. It's pretty decent. I haven't gotten back to it yet. It's one of those ones that sort of slipped. But the condensing, especially if you can't even get 2 hours out of it, like, I don't know if they left stuff on the cutting room floor. I don't know if there was, problems with staffing and production versus the studio, like all that behind the scenes stuff that can really fuck up a film. I mean, we've all seen it where it's, the actors are doing great, or the director's doing great, or the photography of the film is great, but nobody else is doing their fucking job.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
it did bring us, I think it was Aaliyah's last
last
movie
role, right?
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
either that one or Romeo Must Die, I think. And then
Oh, I was Romeo Must Die was her last.
They filmed it the
Yeah, and
same year though.
they were pretty
Oh.
well on top of each other too.
Yeah, so she passed shortly after. I can't remember. I want to say it was I can't remember if it was a plane crash or not, but
I think it was a plane crash.
It was.
I'll be honest with you. I get her and the girl from TLC confused. One was a plane crash. One was a car accident.
Yeah, Left Eye was the car accident.
It was a plane crash. Yeah, I think.
And that's just because my R&B knowledge is fairly limited. Yeah, so I mean that was a good pull. I didn't think of that one either. This is why I like these things, because you guys generally, I don't think you guys saw Return to Oz coming either.
Oh, God.
So you got one for us, Mike?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, we're going to talk Die Hard 2. So when Die Hard came out, we were fairly young. We were 10 years old, and of course, being the 80s people that we are, we all watched it when we were 10. Because that's what good parents let your children watch is movies like Die Hard. And then Die Hard 2 comes out. And that was I believe it was 92. So they waited 5 years for it to come out. And we were at an age where action movies were everything. And I loved Die Hard 2. I thought it was the coolest. It was it was outrageous. It was just, wow. I watched it recently and it was really stupid. But as a kid, as a 12-year-old, watching the stuff with the scene in the cockpit of the plane where the grenades are coming in and John's got to eject himself. It was just cool. And then, watch it as a 46-year-old. You're like, oh no, come on, please don't do this. And it's even the whole thing, even at the end when spoiler alert, when John McClane wins, the gas leak coming out of the engine and with his lighter, the yippee-ki-yay, and it's like, oh my God. But talk about jumping the shark, like the old famous Happy Days thing, and just it was awful. I
liked it.
Have you watched it recently?
I haven't watched it recently. No.
Yeah.
I have. I watched it over Christmas. They tried to recreate that elevator shaft moment with the ejection seat.
Yes, and you can compare all these scenes to the original movie. It's like, oh no, come on, get creative.
I don't know. The green screen guys screwed it up. Is kind of how it's. Sarah's making a point. We didn't have bad parents. We were just home alone while they were at work. Now that
I watched these with my parents. They full on knew. They rented it to let me watch it. So
I mean, in the case of Die Hard, there is the other flip side. Is the parents are like, have a couple of people over for a movie night and a sleepover and play video games. We're going to the pub.
Yeah,
and I watched a lot of Super Channel on that. I watched a lot of, just go down to the video store, here's $10, go down to the video store, rent 2 or 3 movies, and we could do that with $10.
Yeah, there was no such thing as parental
whatever. And as long as and I've said it before, as long as we stayed out of that back room, they didn't give a fuck what we rented.
Yeah.
And that's how I saw Die Hard. Die Hard 2, I saw with my dad. 92 seems to be a year where him and I hit the theater a bunch. We saw Terminator 2, we saw Die Hard 2. One was much better than the other. We'll get into which one was later because I got a thing to say on that. But I mean, Die Hard, it was too close to the original. I think that's where the sequels, like 3 and 4, worked better because, I mean, sure, it's John. He is a black hole of just bad scenarios and bad dudes, but it was better crafted. It wasn't as, I mean, they took Christmas out of it entirely.
Well, it's on Christmas Eve as well.
No, it's on Christmas Eve. Christmas.
No, it's like 3 and 4. They took Christmas out of it.
Yeah, gotcha.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't another. It's not he's got issues with Christmas. They took the whole Christmas thing out of it. Die Hard 2 might have been a little better if it was away from Christmas, but they needed the snow to do a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
But
and even
have you seen the 5th installment?
No.
Of Die Hard, the last one.
No, I have not.
I've seen the 4th one, but I haven't seen the last one. I heard it's bad.
Yeah, I didn't mind Live Free or Die Hard, and I think everybody can agree that Die Hard with a Vengeance was killer.
Arguably the best one.
3 was amazing.
Arguably 3 is better than the first one. It is in the conversation for being better than the first one. Honestly, I really, really liked that one, and the chemistry between Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson was awesome in the whole movie.
Yes.
And
Jeremy Irons being a great brother of Hans Gruber too. He just played it. He played it. He didn't overplay it. He's played it perfectly.
Yeah, and they had the proper amount of twists in it too. Like you think it's one thing, no, it's another. No, it's another. It's like, oh Jesus, he's just like Hans. It's just a fucking bank robbery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the fifth one, A Good Day to Die Hard. I watched it once and then I just went, no, that's one of those ones I'm going to repress. I mean, it's got Bruce Willis. Jai Courtney plays his son in this one.
I think I've seen parts of it on an airplane or something. It was just, it's just like whatever.
And because it's Yippee-ki-yay Mother Russia is what's written across the poster, and it's just it was bad. And a pre-Yellowstone Cole Hauser who was. He was doing what he needed to do to pay the bills and keep his good standing and perfect his craft. But I mean, we may have to do a comparison. Maybe we'll run down franchises one day and we'll get into this because wow,
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember in the theater with Die Hard 2, I noticed two things. One. Robert Patrick is one of the terrorists.
Oh no way!
Yeah, it's in this scene where they go for the skywalk and they get ambushed. He's like the last terrorist to get killed. You get a good shot of his face. I don't think I noticed that until after I'd seen Terminator 2 and watched it on video, but I definitely remembered it when I watched it over Christmas. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. Wow. But it was. I remember specifically sitting in the theater when the military guys are all in the truck headed to the final thing, and they're talking about, oh yeah, man, the Grenada or down there, yeah, no, 20 minutes of firefight, 2 weeks on the beach, yeah. He's like, oh, I wish I was with you guys for that. So do I, and just fucking cuts his throat, like, and it was
because he's the last minute replacement. Because
yeah.
And
it's like, whoa. And that was probably the best effect in the film.
Oh, sure.
And I also appreciated when Bruce Willis just loses his fucking patience in the police station, fires off the weapon. He's like, they're using blanks. And everybody is just shit themselves because he's just unloaded a full clip of blanks in their general direction.
I do like the antagonist cop that is always against Bruce Willis.
Dennis Franz.
He's a great addition to the movie, and just like because you hate him so much because everything he does is to thwart Bruce Willis's or John McClane, I guess his character name is his path to try to resolve this massive situation. But he just blocks him the entire time, or to the point where it's just like, regardless of what he does, the cop's just gonna side on the other side of it anyway.
And then he's in and he's out with the people that are in authorities too, right? Like, and I can't remember the guy's name for the life of me, but like the head of the airport is like, McClane's on this. It's like, oh no, you can't come in here for this meeting, son. And he's like, what the fuck? I've been beat up, shot at, blown up, and you're cutting me out of the meeting. And then the joke near the end where the cop giving him a ticket is Dennis Franz's
his
brother or
cousin. Yeah.
Have you met my cousin? It's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So I'm going to jump to another franchise that has its high and low moments. There was a couple I wanted to pull out of this one, and I've gone with, I believe, the 6th installment over the 5th and the 3rd. Terminator Dark Fate. Wow.
Dark Fate. Which one's Dark Fate again?
That was the one Linda Hamilton returned for in 2019.
Okay.
Wow.
Dude, I stopped watching them after the 3rd one, I think. The 3rd one was the last one I saw.
Yeah, the 3rd one was not good either. I didn't mind the one with Christian Bale, and the title escapes me. If anybody watching remembers,
that's Genesis, right? That was Genesis.
Arnold is back in Dark Fate, isn't he? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they have CGI Arnold in the Genesis one too, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. They do that thing, like they de-age Arnold and they slap his face on a different bodybuilder for Genesis.
Yes.
3 was god awful because this is where they started replacing cast members. Like Edward Furlong wouldn't come back, or was in the middle.
He was probably unable to come back though.
Personal crisis.
Yeah. he has not done well with himself.
That was
after
Claire Danes was in that one, was she not? I
Yes.
think.
Yeah.
Yes. Like
One of my high
so
school
much
crushes,
potential
baby.
because you wonder about the fall and how the machines came alive and how they could make it look good and do a good story. It's all there. And this whoever wrote it was just like, yeah, let's just do this. And it's like,
oh yeah, the third one had Christina Loken in it as the female Terminator.
Yeah, that's
remember
right.
that one now.
oh, right.
And,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
it's,
Claire Danes is happening to listen to our podcast. How you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you
Terminator Salvation is the one with Christian Bale, Sam Worthington, and Bryce Dallas Howard, as well as Anton Yelchin and Common.
Okay,
I mean,
so
I
have
really
seen that
enjoyed
one
this one
too.
because it was
Yeah.
centered. It like we're not jumping back and forth in time. It was centered on John getting to the point of sending Kyle Reese back and meeting Kyle Reese for the first time, and it all takes place in that dystopian future. Genesis was not good, but Dark Fate retconned fucking everything. Fucking everything.
I'm just reading it on the Wikipedia page, and it basically says it's a direct sequel to Terminator 2, and it ignores the events of the previous 3 movies entirely. It just it just erases that Salvation, Genesis, and Rise ever even happened.
And I'm okay with erasing what happened in 3 and 5. I mean, 4 was better, solid. Right? 4 was okay. They did all right with that. I enjoyed it because it's how the Terminators really got to be Terminators and going from cyborgs to robots. But yeah, and basically it's really summed up with they sent. I mean, as we know, they sent multiple Terminators back. T-100 got John after the events of T2, got John in a bar in Mexico. But
okay,
the world didn't change. The Skynet still became Skynet. It just a different leader rose up, and that Terminator that got John, has turned out to be a family man. He's got a wife and a stepson, and became
interesting
an exterminator.
Do you
He's
think
killing
the
bugs
problem
and rats and rodents? And I was excited for it. I mean, Linda Hamilton was back. Let's kick this off. Let's see how. And
Sarah Connor.
Yeah, it was bad. It was an absolute fucking nightmare.
Dude, her body transformation between the first and second one was like,
oh man,
it was amazing.
Yeah, she was super.
When you see her in the second one, it's like a fitness model. You're like, holy Linda Hamilton, you've been working out.
That hit a spot. Let me tell you.
Let me ask you this question, Matt. Do you think it fails because? So I'm just looking at the wiki page here for Dark Fate. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different people that contributed to the story writing of that story.
Oh, it's never good.
Do you think that too many cooks in the kitchen?
Too many cooks spoil the stew, right? Like
like James Cameron wrote the story with Charles Eagle, with Joss Friedman. David Goyer also contributed to the story, and then Justin Rhodes as well. So it's just like when you have so many people involved in creating the story, I think it loses. Like there's too many people that want to pull it in different directions. Think that maybe that it can get lost in the chaos of too many writers.
Sure.
And those aren't untalented people.
David Goyer's amazing, right?
Right? It's exactly that. And I don't think they did the diligence of going, whoa.
I mean, it was a box
piece that I'm writing doesn't work with this piece back here, so we got to go fix one of the. I think it was just.
It is a box office success, though. I mean, it made $261 million in box office.
Sure.
I think the budget was just under $200 million, so it turned a $61 million profit just in box office alone. So, never mind streaming. I mean, at this point, there was no DVD rentals anymore. Can you even get?
Yeah,
a DVD
I mean, the Blockbuster was pretty much some.
I think Best Buy
be a
still
Blockbusters.
Some, I think you can buy them. I don't know if you can.
They're like
rent
all
them.
blue.
Yeah, I mean, and. You know what? That's a debate for down the line versus, the issues of virtually owning something or having a hard copy. There's a good debate in that, especially with the way streaming is going right now. I think we're on the dawn of another major revolution in that whole platform. But we can get into that down the line. But yeah, I mean, Terminator. Out of 6 movies, 1 was phenomenal, 2 were really good, and 3 were just hot garbage.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, it's a good batting average if you're in baseball, but I'm surprised. Yeah. Hey, that one hurt. We're kind of winding down here. We're trying to keep to an hour, not just for me, but just
I got a quick
general rule, because we do tend to get off on a rant. So I want to throw a comment out to you guys that you may have already seen that came up. One of our listeners had to be on the road, so she's not texting and driving. So some thoughts into this. Grease 2, Son of the Mask, Speed 2, Batman and Robins, Showgirls 2. The original was bad enough. And Dumb and Dumber.
Dude, I didn't even know they made a Showgirls 2. But Speed 2 was on my list, actually. Speed 2. This is going to be my third one. So let's just talk about that for a quick second.
Yeah, let's do it.
The whole concept of Speed is that you're in a bus that can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
They put Speed 2 on a cruise ship. So let's just take that in. I understand that cruise ships go very fast in terms of what the speed is, but they don't in reflection to on the water. So how do you go from like a high octane? The bus can't go below, what was it, like 50 miles an hour?
It was 50, I believe. Yeah.
So the entire concept just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would have been better off to put it in a plane or something. I don't know, or a train maybe. And
it's not like there's not sort of almost unlimited ocean to travel. Like aside from being in a storm, you're going to slow down. But seriously,
yeah, I think there's some story point where they had to go into a harbor or something. I don't remember, but it's just like
they crashed into a pier or something.
The entire stake of the concept of this film does not work for the sequel because you're in traffic, you're on the highway, you can't slow down, you have to like skimmy around cars and go around corners, and Keanu Reeves isn't back. You can't have a sequel without Keanu Reeves in the franchise if he was in the first one.
Sandra Bullock did part 2, right?
Yes,
she did.
Jason Patrick, I think.
Oh, Jason. I was going to say
Stuart Townsend. That's
our backup.
That's a show concept. How many Stuart Townsend films has he been kicked out of, or films Stuart Townsend been kicked out of? I'm sorry,
Stuart Townsend. I've never seen Speed 2, so I think I refused on principle. I was like, I'm out.
It's just the whole concept of it, and then when it first came out to say, oh yeah, it's on a cruise ship now, everyone was like, what? How does that work? Like, I don't get it. Like.
They kind of drop a line in the first one that's unintentional right near the end, where Sandra's lying on top of him, and it's something along the lines of, they say relationships that start under extreme stressful situations don't last. Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's a good out for replacing the boyfriend.
Yeah,
I think they could have worked something with the characters, but they would have had to retitle it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those things like Kiss the Girls and Along Came a Spider. So we're going to keep the same character. You want to follow this character's adventures. We're going to go over here to this movie, but we're not putting a 2 behind the original title, and then done something different with it, where it's not.
They definitely wanted to double down on the success of the first one, because the first one was really good. Like it was great. Did you know Willem Dafoe plays the bad guy in the second one?
Sure does.
I didn't, because I don't think I've seen this particular piece of steaming poop.
He plays.
It's got Tamura Morrison, everybody's favorite clone trooper.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I'm just looking at I've never seen this, and I never realized it had a title after the Speed 2. It was Cruise Control. It's like, what brilliant person thought of that? It's like,
I mean, it's a smart title, I guess, but it's just the whole concept of Speed is
so 90s. So 90s.
Yeah. Well, they did make Titanic too. I've seen that on like Tubi. There is a Titanic too.
There is a Titanic too, which I don't know.
Nobody
how that's
needs
possible,
to watch it. I'm
but
pretty
that's
sure.
Fine.
Oh, that hurts in several different ways.
Anyways,
all right, Mike, you got one more for us. You got one more for us to wrap us up.
In 5 minutes, no, because I'm going to stir the bee's nest, and I don't want to.
You know what?
Let's kick the hornet's nest real quick. Let's see what we can do. We might have a little leeway. I'll just have to post these on-demand versions a little bit later. I'm curious as to what you got.
Well, we've talked about this before, but my stance on these movies is they did not need to be made, and they're just stupid and Disneyfied. All 3 sequels of Star Wars, 7, 8, and 9, they did not need to be made. They're garbage, and they are just stupid. Because
you, Mike.
That's fine. You could be done all you like, but
for a guy that likes the second
No,
of the prequels,
I do not like the
done.
second prequel.
I'm
I hate
done.
that. I was on my list actually. It was episode 2, but I hate the sequels more. So, the sequels could have been good, just like the prequels could have been good, but they weren't. But the sequels, you get the brainchild of a giant conglomerate of Disney and J.J. Abrams to Mr. Reboot himself, because he just rebooted Star Trek before this. And
he did a good job with the first one.
The first one was awesome. Like he captured, that's the problem. In Star Trek, he captured what Star Trek was.
Yeah.
Star Wars, he missed the mark so far. He got it a little bit with the Han Solo stuff in 7, but 9 was a complete, I don't know. It was.
You think it's the story that fails because people were expecting her to be a Skywalker and she wasn't?
No,
I think that's part of it.
Well,
I think that's a big part of it, because
I
it's
think
like
my
fan
problem
service,
with it
right?
was
Everybody
she was
had
somebody
this...
from.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, she was somebody from nowhere, and that was cool. Kind of like where Anakin was just this random kid, right? And then now she's from nowhere, but then all of a sudden, with no warning, she's Palpatine's granddaughter. Like, really? We got to bring back somebody from
the weird.
It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
Or you. Well, I understand it's the Skywalker saga, but then make her a Skywalker then, or you introduce a completely new lineage of people that has not been introduced yet. Like she's some kind of descendant of this Jedi that no one's ever heard about, and then you
some guy
create
from
a new IP into that, saying I'm.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think they're. Here's
It's
a hot
terrible.
take. Here's a hot take. 7 is better than 8 and 9 for sure.
That's not a hot take. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely disagree with Mike. I think
So do
8
I.
was by far the worst one.
Minus the casino scene, it would have been better. It's a
minus casino scene. 8 was awesome, but again, they were all reboots.
Chase.
Like 7 was A New Hope, 8 was Empire, and then 9 was whatever 9 was, a rushed pile of garbage.
It was a formula. It was a formula. I didn't appreciate the Killer Planet thing. I thought they could have done a little better there. The resurrection of the Emperor was a very, very loose adaptation, and they didn't flesh it out enough because they didn't flesh it out enough. They didn't take the time to, again, as we discussed earlier, to do justice to the source material that they're taking the story from. That portion of the story was in comic books called Dark Empire, which was a really well told 6-issue story, which was done in watercolor.
Cool.
I highly recommend it. And it fleshes out how the Emperor is able to be killed in 3 and the clone thing and how he does the resurrection deal and why he rots away to the stage he was in at that movie. But they don't touch on it. It's just
that's the problem.
All these things all of a sudden.
9, they're throwing ideas at you. Like it's just like one thing. You don't have any time to process anything, and then it's like, okay, on to the next one. Like when Rey blew up the ship with her lightning, and we all thought Chewie was in it.
Yeah,
they should have left that hanging for like half an hour, and then not have him come back 35 seconds later. Like, Chewie's over here.
That's fan service. That's Disney fan service.
Have it be
too bad.
You know what? Let us be upset. We were upset
that's what I mean. Like,
let us be upset. And it's like, okay, that's the end of Chewie's story.
Yes,
we can go back and tell other stuff in flashbacks or in different content, but this is where Chewie finishes up.
Yeah, it would have been a good ending. I also don't like the Leia force herself in from space thing. Like, I think that was just bullshit. And a lot of people disagree with me on it, but that would have been the perfect time for her to go in the story as well. And then she, and here's another comment I need to make. So I find that people that are like the casual Star Wars fans that like really love Star Wars really enjoy the hell out of 7, 8, 9. But I think the hardcore fans that have deep dived the Star Wars universe dislike 7, 8, and 9 because there's a lot of expectations of what was supposed to be that they failed on. So how many people had Snoke as Plagueis, Darth Plagueis? Right? Like there's exactly. And then so it's a major letdown if you're a fan because you have all these predetermined notions of deepening the story that Star Wars created, and then you're just like, well, he's just like a failed clone. He's like
He's
bitch,
a failed clone, and it's
right?
like,
And
what?
it's such a letdown. It's like it's the same as like
is.
the end of Game of Thrones when you watch the last season.
Yes.
It's like you have all these expectations of how the stories can further go, and they just fall short with each of the brackets of those characters. For her not to be a Skywalker, and then for her to be a Palpatine's granddaughter, just kind of like you're just doing that to create shock value, but it doesn't really make any logical sense to why the character would be his granddaughter.
No, I mean,
so,
and then we can go back and we can maybe do some math and figure it out. But I mean, at what point was Palpatine throwing hip after the
well, you gotta believe he was
Order
banging on
66,
people.
right?
On,
Like, I mean, he's the most powerful person in the galaxy. So I mean, sure,
he's banging some people on.
If he needed to force that
yeah,
up,
and
the
Rey
whole
was
plan.
how old in these movies? Like 20?
Yeah,
Oh,
And these were
wasn't
30
she
years
supposed to be
after
younger?
Yeah, I think-
the original from Return of the Jedi. It's like, no, this doesn't make any sense.
I think we'd have to do some math on that and really get
Yeah.
a deep dive, which I'm sure we can do down the line.
And that's and I think that's the
so
biggest
let me-
problem with Disney. So let's give me one second.
Yeah, go
with
ahead.
Disney Star Wars is they have all this, like you say, this source material, this great products in what they call legends that they just choose to. We're going to cherry pick a couple little things and ignore the absolute rest. But it is the richest part of the whole universe. But they think they're smart enough. Well, we're going to make it our way. It's like, no, your way sucks. I'm sorry, but most of your TV shows, I wanted to love Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I can't because it's not good.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah, that didn't pick up.
It didn't land.
till the end.
Boba Fett was boring. It really
Yes.
was. Nothing happened in Boba Fett. And
Yeah,
Boba
again, same day. It picked up in the last couple episodes when it became
Yes.
Mandalorian season 3B.
Well, that's the
right?
thing. So when you bring in these other great characters they have invented, like the Mandalorian, which I will give them props. Mando's great.
They
Well,
actually
season
stuck
one
the
and-
landing on that.
season 3 wasn't. Season 2, whatever the hell the last
No,
season
season
was.
2 was
one.
good. Season 2 was good.
The last one
Okay,
was
last
basically a Mandalorian story, which I did not care about them going back to Mandalore. I'm like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Just Disney needs to let somebody that can tell a story, just let them tell the story, and just
Zack Snyder.
oh god,
I'm driving. Right
I will
near
throw
your
all my
house.
Star
I
Wars
will
shit out if Zack
stop
Snyder makes the
fucking
Star Wars movie.
fucking-
After
Mark my
seeing
words.
Rebel Moon, I can see why Disney said no.
So let me ask you this.
Sure.
16.
To make 42 is the correct answer.
Oh,
sorry.
I was going to say that.
Would it have been better, or would it have been just another bastardization if Rey was like Anakin and a virgin in the Force?
I was thinking about that.
That's what I
actually.
thought she was supposed to be, because she was just
Yeah.
some rando kid in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just like they found Anakin on Tatooine, just some rando. Oh, look at this midichlorians. Or
Yeah, and
higher
then
than
you
Master
could do
Yoda.
it's like,
Wow.
well, this Tatooine is a because they have planets and places that are very force sensitive and whatever else. We've seen that
Sure.
in a couple of things. Maybe it's just Tatooine's like, nah, this is where the Force just, I mean, to steal a phrase I've already used, this is where the Force is throwing hip. I mean,
Yep.
this is where this is happening. This is where it's going down. We're going to make some babies and we're going to try and write the universe. I think that the big problems there is it is just so disconnected, like you were saying. I mean, they do an intermittent job of doing good work in the 3 films, the same as they do on the TV. Like Ahsoka was fucking phenomenal, and they hit it out of the park with continuing the story from
Rebels.
the Clone Wars and Rebels
Wars and
TV
Rebels,
shows.
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They could have eliminated the Emperor entirely instead of telling 1/10 of the story in much like Seb was saying earlier about Queen of the Damned. They condensed too much into too little.
right?
For the
That
Emperor,
seems
that
about
would have had to play out probably over the full 3 movies as little pieces, or like, what is
Well,
this?
at
I'm
least
over here
Well,
drop a
they
hint.
wanted a way
But-
to go back to the homeworld of the Sith. Or to go
Yeah.
to the homeworld of the
And
Sith. So
this leading into the point is they could have made Snoke, who I thought was just a stupid fucking character. They could have made Snoke a puppet of Darth Plagueis, or it's like, yeah, you know what? I sent Palpatine out here to sort this shit out, and he didn't. And so I'm going to try Snoke, and it's like,
Yeah.
nope, I need Kylo, and that's where we're going, and ignore the Emperor entirely.
that's
I mean, they're
definitely
not
one
perfect.
of the most.
I like them. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah.
enjoyed those movies. I had some tears in all 3 of them. Granted, the tears in 8 were more of like, what are you doing to what I love? But I mean, it really is. All right, I have
My
just
favorite- my
enough time to
favorite-
get this stuff downloaded. So
Okay.
Yep.
I think we're gonna get into this Star Wars discussion a little heavier. We definitely have more bad movies and
May
bad
4th is
sequels to
coming.
discuss down the road. What's on the schedule for next week, boys? I believe are we
Super
getting
Bowl trailers? Because
Super
Bowl
Bowl
right.
trailers?
tomorrow?
Yes. So I mean, that's the trailers and the commercials of the Super Bowl. I am looking forward to not watching the game, and will be very
I'm
interested in
Really
seeing the
torn on if
commercial.
I'm going to watch it, but I'm not going to pay any
Yeah,
attention. I'm not
you're
going to pay.
gonna watch it.
Oh, I'm watching. I'm just not going to pay too close
I think it's
attention.
going to be surprisingly entertaining game. I think, like, it has the recipe.
I think
for
it's got a
being
chance to be
game.
boring as hell, to be perfectly honest. Because
Also
two teams
true.
that like to run the ball, that's all they're going to do is run the ball.
Well, you got Mahomes,
Now,
though.
were you guys paying attention for our opening?
No.
Yes.
Did you see what I tacked on the end there?
There's
Oh,
a
the
Super
Taylor-
Bowl
the-
Swiftie.
The Taylor Swift's boyfriend is playing during the Usher
I did
show,
see
the
that.
Usher concert. I saw that yesterday. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna redo the opening.
That's funny.
So it'll be
I saw
interesting
that
to see how the trailers come out, because there's a couple of big ones that are supposed to drop. One I'm very interested in, especially because Marvel's making some big moves. We'll see how this Deadpool Wolverine trailer shapes up, and what other cool commercials just drop. I mean, it's known for that. We don't get to see them up here, but
You watch them on
They drop
YouTube the
cool
day
commercial.
after.
That's why we
Yeah.
got
There's
YouTube.
always the
Yeah.
Budweiser commercial. There's always a Budweiser's and a Doritos commercial, I think, every year at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good. There's the Patrick Stewart one is out too, which is really funny.
I'll have to watch that. I haven't.
Yeah, I
I
watched
haven't
that
seen
last
one yet.
week. So
all right, so come back and join us next Saturday at 9:00. Thank you, everybody that participated and stuck with us through the entire show. Thank you for cruising with Kayfabe. Check them out on Facebook for.
Yeah, we
if you're a
appreciate all of
wrestling
you.
fan. Great people. I was really happy to be able to hang out with them a couple weeks ago, and thank you for Sarah as always for dropping in and letting Mike live in your head. Apparently,
that's true.
Apparently.
all right. Everybody have a good afternoon. It's a wonderful day out there. Seb, I will be by to scratch your car up for that comment you made earlier. And good afternoon.
Well, peace and love.